Hello, family, friends, and patriots. Well, over the last week, I have produced and put out a series on non-compliance that was from an organization back east. I found it very, very helpful, and I think that you probably did too. Now, this week, I wanted to add some commentary to those clips because as we go forward, I think you realize, if you've been watching what's going on in the news, that here in the near future, we're going to see some unrest once again. They're already talking about the fact that COVID cases under this Delta variant are going up, and that they're recommending that some states reinstitute the masking policy. And of course, here in Colorado, we know we've got Governor Polis, who's more than willing to infringe upon our personal rights and mandate that we wear a mask and social distance. So we've got to get ready for that. And the first in this series was talking about Christianity and politics. A lot of people don't believe that the two mix. Well, the truth of the matter is that the hierarchy of authority starts with God and then goes to man, not God to government or government over God. So indeed, as Christians, we need to get involved with politics and make sure that we have a Christian conservative background or basis on our legal and legislative and executive and judicial branches here in not only state level but also in the federal level. So I want you to get ready for that, because indeed, if they're going to start going door to door and people are not going to comply, and they're going to then try to force you to wear a mask, force you to take a shot, take away your ability to post certain things on Facebook or other social media because you might not agree with the governmental policies that are being put out, then indeed your rights are being heavily infringed on. And whether you're a Christian or not, you're going to have to stand up against it. But if you are a Christian, you have a moral obligation to stand for what is right and try to correct it if you can. Or if you're not going to lead, then follow. And if you can't follow, then at least don't get in the way by complying with what they're telling you to do, which means you're adding to the problem. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, not to act is to act. Here, to comply is to make it that you're agreeing with what they're doing. So this whole series is about non-compliance and your rights, and let's start with Christianity and politics.
I can't thank you enough for being a part of this with us. And I just want to express my personal thanks to the church for allowing us to come. Maybe you don't experience this like we do, maybe you don't see this the way that we do, but when we travel around the country, there are churches who refuse to allow us to use their facilities to teach. They believe that the Constitution is too political.
As a young man, was pretty much brought up in church history. There was this unspoken or even sometimes spoken rule that religion and politics don't mix.
And that for some strange reason, Christians should not be involved in politics.
And even more so, you wouldn't dare speak out against the government or somehow resist or not do what they say.
Christians have to be involved in politics. God commands it. The scripture supports that.
I always heard it through Romans 13 presentation that we were basically taught enjoined us to slavish submission to government. Like, you just submit no matter what. There was really no evaluation of what maybe the directive might be.
One of the most powerful voices in America is being silenced by errant teaching from the pulpit.
I thought it was easy to sort of sum up that Romans 13 says, don't be lawless. And that's the core teaching there. Don't be lawless. And then I notice as Paul is describing the believer's relationship with government, God speaks through him to actually define the role of government as well. What happens when they're not a minister for good? What happens when they're not punishing evil but promoting evil? What about when they're punishing good? What about when they're doing things outside of their defined role? If I follow them, when they step outside of their role, doesn't that make me lawless when they're being lawless? And if Romans 13 says I'm not to be lawless, then I violate that when I submit to lawless government. I started looking at the Old Testament and other stories in the New Testament and found all of these examples of people of God saying no to unrighteous government, to unlawful government, resisting. Romans 13 does not teach a slavish submission to government, because if it did, then the Hebrew midwives in Exodus violated biblical principles. Daniel, by resisting government, violated principles. God himself recruiting Moses to resist the king, Pharaoh, we would have to have God violating the very principles that he allegedly laid down. So I don't believe the Bible entertains the notion of uninvolved people of God. There is no passive Christianity.